China there. I brought an article that was very well received by Chinese nationals. It, and I wanted to present, make it a gift to them if any of you are here. Maybe Tomoki could give it to them later. That would probably be very appreciated from Japanese to Chinese because it's a poem of a letter of apology to the people of China. And they love. Okay. It's in there, could be printed from that thumb drive, or this is a copy.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay? It's written in Chinese, except for the poem. And they said it was unprecedented that Chinese paper will have total poem in English, and also followed by their own Chinese translations. And that I'm trying to do a lot of outreach to groups that is very hard to make friends with historically because of their past experience. And I've been trying for the past several years to do that. And then this book received no objection from the Communist Party to be translated into Chinese and was discussed in Committee for Weapons Reduction in Beijing. I sent the 5 copies with the Japanese head of the delegation, who is the chancellor at the Peace Museum and also the chancellor at the Mayors for Peace. Anyway, so thank you for your energy of support. I keep going, trying to, think of things and then acting on it before my life time is up. Anyway, today I intended to give you a slideshow about when a peace tree blooms. Can you hear me in the back? Okay. I'd rather have eye contact than sit there and then be louder. Okay, so what it says is when the peace tree blooms, how it came to be, author's intent. The reason why I wanted to take this chance to elaborate on it, and it would have had a gorgeous, gorgeous slideshow with content, but I'm sorry. This is not a children's story, okay? This is an abstract narrative. The concept of being truly human and seeking authentic connections and healing thereby, so that in the end, ultimately, our culture will have some effect. It's not a religious book. God loves you, therefore you pass it on. No, it's not a political book. It has no name. Who got what and when. It just says certain things happen. And I'm very, very against the use of a weapon that has radiation. So when a few weeks ago, you wouldn't believe this, what I heard. There was a discussion about, ISIS being bombed, and somebody saying collateral damage is necessary. A real good one was Hiroshima. We ended war. And I thought to myself, you are still thinking that way? Those who survived, war never ended. It didn't bring them any peace of mind, that there will be more food and things to eat and so forth, but they're carrying carried a time bomb within themselves for multiple cancers. And I also saw a film, a German priest saying a couple of weeks afterwards, who was a survivor, being filmed by American military documentary. Oh, I'm just fine. What are they talking about? There's no bad effect. Anyway, this is a time we want to distinguish demagogue and what is important for us as a human being, because there are so many, many things that's very discouraging. Not that there never were before. We need to take hold of ourselves and strive to see what we can be to make difference. And those of you here, I can tell, you are making differences. And I am so very glad you're here. And invite you to my digression on why, how this story came to be, and what abstract ideas are trying to be presented. Okay. Very first page of this book. By the way, you probably know it. Clifton Daniel, Truman's grandson, is writing along with, he had nothing to do with dropping the bombs. His grandfather did. And you know why? It was a very world-weary time. And he was new in his job. Roosevelt didn't share that much continuing with him. He didn't even know such a program was going on. Roosevelt died in the middle of April, and I think Truman took on. That's 1945. He had no preparation. July, test, successful. Japanese trying before that very hard to surrender, only with one condition, that you don't kill our emperor. Well, it was a hard time. Truman was a president of his country, had to look after his people and his men, and this is a mega buck project. If he hadn't used it, his head would have probably rolled by the taxpayers who funded it. Anyway, whatever it was, I'm not really here to present any case for one thing or the other, all right? It took place. And the reason why he got involved in this thing is in 2010, there was a very strong grassroots effort around the world to help the United Nations to go forward with encouraging, with their invitations for various countries to have preliminary discussions about anti-proliferation, anti-nuclear proliferation. And so I guess the reason he went that later, he told me, is that his son asked him, Dad, did Granddad have anything to do with this? They had no discussion about this with, their children. Yeah? Well, I read about this Sadako story. I want to know more about them. So he took his son to New York City, and there he ran into Sadako's brother, who was also there in support of anti-nuclear proliferation. And Sadako's brother immediately invited him to come and visit Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Sadako is from Hiroshima. And I think her brother lives in Nagasaki today. And, those of us who are really, really appreciative of his trip was appalled. There was curious reporters saying, "Why are you here? Are you here to apologize?" Nobody needs to apologize for anything, although it is very diplomatic sometimes to begin with that. So, Sadako's brother yanked him out and then said, "He is my guest. Please do not be rude to him." Anyhow, and we were very relieved to understand that's what happened. It's not the business of anybody to, ask, "Why did you do this?" Because he happened to be grandson. Are you out of your mind? We were all, our hands were dirty. I was trained to kill. I was born in Tokyo. I was living in a residential area where there were diplomats' families and the embassies were. And accustomed to seeing blue-eyed, blonde kids, I used to say, I thought they came out of the stories. They were so beautiful. And adored them. And then before that time, we exchanged dolls, and we used to sing songs about, "Oh, you beautiful blue-eyed," we used to call it celluloid, so like a plastic we didn't have. That was time before a doll. And, you know the song. And then we sent the Japanese dolls. We had wonderful relations. And my parents were free spirit people. They went to university. They, lived in the urban area, free thinkers and everything. Hey, when your country goes into war, it turns some ugly colors. Some of you, not some of you, but those of them, very, very anxious about our own security and safety. And run to the measures of immediate remedies. Okay, do this and then we won't. No. Unless you start from the ground up, you're not safe. You're not safe to yourself. We have to examine what human beings do to each other. Okay? So, I am dedicating, I haven't gone very far, for my granddaughter Jordan, and I had a beautiful, beautiful picture of my granddaughter in kimono. I can't show it to you. Anyway, all the children of the world and those yet unborn, because by the time you are even college age or 30, 40, your thoughts are formed. It's much, much harder where you begin. You begin with them are the bad guys, and we are the better off guys, and let's just protect our territory. We learn these things in school. I was taunted to death practically in evacuation and forced me to really, really want to come back to Hiroshima, which was a bad idea, but we thought was the best thing to do. At the time, came home on the night of August 6th, thinking I was the luckiest child. Oh, I was so hungry. Oh, I couldn't stand. Every boy in the village was taunting me, except one. And I didn't know why. And when I came home, I asked everybody, "What does this mean?" Nobody knew, And I think after I had my kids and then thought about it, and they were wanting attention in an embarrassing way from me. But the effect of it was mainly I want to crawl up and then get out of their life. Anyway, so it happens everywhere. And today I understand some kids even commit suicide when that happens, you know? Fortunately, I wasn't that kind of a kid. What's wrong with you? You're just taunting me like this, blah, 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 blah. That's sort of a dynamic. Anyway, so that's beside the point, but that was the reason I was home on the 5th of August. Anyway, so you see in the first page, this little girl, like my granddaughter or yours, your, little someone. And the reason is her mind is less tainted than the grown ones already. And if you can be with all your, experiences and preconceived notions, become like this to listen to some new ideas or old ideas that could be useful. It doesn't matter. You have to be open-minded. And that child is open-minded because they are curious and they want to learn as much as possible. She takes her little poochie and the dog loves it, roams around. And I had some pictures of other children. Me with heavy ornament up on my head. It's called 753. In a feudal household in Japanese homes, and if your family is very devout Buddhist, you follow this, what is it? It's like an introduction party, dancing. Well, I was 5, and just crying my heart out. I don't want this heavy thing. I don't want to wear this thing. Don't paint my face white. Anyway, I had this lotus blossom, and, chun, chun, and going around the temple hallway, introducing another Buddhist is being born. I have no intention of being anybody but myself, but that's how it starts, That's how cultures begin, people, right? You are following different rites of that society. And in Hiroshima, in 1938 and 39, that was what was done. And I have lots of pictures of, I'm sorry, keep on being a broken, whatever you call it. Anyway, so she is wanting to find out what is happening there, all right? That's what we need, a curious, open, pure heart. Hopefully, a bit of innocence. Next page is that she finds out what they're doing. They're planting seeds. Isn't that curious? Right? And she says, what kind of seed is this? What a, blah, 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 blah. And that's our learning process, right? We go to school and we're awed with some subject, hopefully, and then start thinking of sequential thinking, solutions, disconnection, or whatever. And so I start to show at that point the source of wisdom, okay? And I was going to show you my source of wisdom. But you can think to yourself, where does your wisdom come from? I don't know all your backgrounds. Many of you must have had some kind of a going to church or going to some reflections. I don't know. When I used to be in Chicago, I used to attend Ethical Society, and the Unitarian Church. They didn't talk much about, but they also talked about source of wisdom. But anyway, that is really very important, what we draw from. But in my case, my grandfather was a very, very devout Buddhist. And I, to this day, remember, and it was a huge estate in Hiroshima. There was a Buddhist chapel, huge altar. And then there was a household of 3 maids and lots of people in there. And every single day we had to come to it, bow down when he read the holy text. Now, we had to chant the textbook, but there was a preaching time, like a pastor preaching. He would have a holy book opened up, and then with that, we said, our head touching the tatami floor to lower our head. That's the sort of Japanese way of showing very deep respect. And there I learned, even though I was only 4, 5, 6, young age, you hear it long enough, repeated many times. And what I learned, 2 terribly important things. And I remember one, and it might not be the one that I should have remembered, but because of my experience, that the life is very short. It's called the holy text of white ashes. It's like a bird nesting on the tree, and then next morning they fly away, on their way. It's like a life being a part of a station in transition. You are going through and then go. Now, I don't know about transition because I don't remember what was before, and I probably couldn't tell you about next one because I haven't died yet. But it is true. I'm in my 80s, and it feels like a life just went by. It's very true. So it's really an awakening to have to remind myself, in the moment, you have to be. You can't, I think I'll do that next Thursday. And no. Right now, you have to think about something important, if it is important to you. And a lot of people are starting to do that. I noticed that. It is terribly important for us to take it personal, that for the moment, in the moment, we have to be. And what am I responsible? What should I be? Who can I be in relation to where I am? Now, the child doesn't know anything about it. So she asked, and the old couple, and there's no nationality given to any of this. The only inference is because the United States is the only country that dropped the atomic bomb or nuclear bomb. They put it, probably, Japanese and the Americans, okay? But I didn't say it. All right? And then I purposely sought an artist who can draw war without scaring people, especially young ones, and especially radiation war, nuclear war. because there's so many very noted artists known for depicting dying in the Hiroshima bomb. Maruki, Mr. and Mrs. Maruki, extremely artistic couple. But I think there are more artists than a realist. I think they are sending some artist message, because when I see their paintings, there's a horrible, horrible way of people, losing their lives. But very curvaceous thighs and hips of women, and, buxom. Let me tell you, during the time when the nuclear bomb was dropped, we were starving to death. Nobody had any meat on our bone. We were skinning, whatever you call it. There were nothing. So they painted these things, and I saw it in documentary. She was trying to tell her grandson, who was well-fed and nurtured, to make this, that, So to me, that's a different one, even if it conveys something different. But probably she was trying to get very ordinary people to be moved and notice that women and children died. Well, to each his own. But I didn't need it. And then also, even though I have spoken about my experiences from time to time, it just made me sick. And to this day, I don't particularly like to watch those things. Something about here starts to, get noxious. I don't need to see them. Okay.